Erik, we're excited to have Egor on the Nets and follow his coverage throughout the season with your coverage of him. What's your reaction been to seeing this BYU guy at number 8 become one of the faces of the Nets now?
It was definitely a surprise. I think, if you followed draft coverage, I don't think many people anticipated the Nets taking Egor at number 8 overall, but in the fallout from the draft, watching his tape, there's definitely, there's a logic to it and there's a thought process that I think isn't too hard to follow from the Nets perspective, getting a lead ball handler with his passing ability, his size, the upside there, and then all the comments from Nets general manager Sean Marks and head coach Jordi Fernandez. It sounds like when Egor came to work out for the Nets at their facility in Brooklyn, they really loved everything they saw from him, from his mindset, his attitude, what he had to say, the way he shot the basketball, all of those things. So I think the Nets feel they came away with a really high-level prospect, and he's a guy who it's the first lottery pick for the Nets in 15 years. So whether he likes it or not, there's going to be some heavy expectations there, and I think a lot of the fans are excited to see how it plays out.
I didn't realize it had been that long. I'm assuming with the the Boston trio there that all those picks went away. So people are expecting him to be good out of the gate. When you're a top 10 pick, you're probably going to be a starter. Is that your anticipation?
I think it's really tough with point guards, lead ball handlers, rookies in those positions typically don't perform very well. And, from the Nets position, they're kind of in a luxury, where they're going to be in a rebuilding season. I think a lot of the focus is going to be on the development of these young guys, obviously, but also on draft position and where that pick lands next year. So while it's always going to be better to see, Egor perform well out of the gate, and that would be, a good sign for his long-term upside and, development track. If he has some struggles, he's not in a position where he has to, perform so well and there's going to be pressure on him initially. He's in a spot where you're going to want to see some promise and development in the areas that maybe were concerns entering the draft, but there isn't all of that pressure. So I think, he's going to get the ball a lot. He's going to have the leeway to do some things and kind of experiment and improve upon the areas that I think maybe were some criticism of him entering the draft. But there isn't going to be, so much pressure on him to perform right away. But the Nets fan base, obviously, if he struggles out of the gate, there's always going to be some fans that, go, this was a reach, this was the wrong pick. So there is pressure, but from a team perspective, the Nets aren't in a position right now where they're, viewed as a contender or a playoff threat. So he has that going for him.
It'll be interesting to see how that's handled, because I think BYU fans have some PTSD from Jimmer Fredette with the Kings, and that wasn't a great fit. And frankly, who is a great fit with the Kings at many moments? And then obviously in the New York market, Zach Wilson getting thrown into the mix with the Jets, that was tough too. So how does he come out of this thriving and one of the seasoned veterans who are Russians? Only 2 Russians have ever played over 200 games. He wants to be the third, right? He hasn't said that, but it's assumed. How does he come out of this in a positive situation where, yes, it is a team that is in a rebuild mode? He's going to get opportunities, like you said, yet he's a top 10 pick, so people expect him to do good and probably good early.
I think, his playmaking obviously is his top skill, and that aspect of his game shining and him making some of his teammates better and creating opportunities, that's going to be expected. But then there are, the less polished aspects of his games that were some of the criticism among draft analysts and some front offices, which is, the ball handling, the athleticism, the shooting, being able to create separation from defenders and really create advantages on his own, being able to handle ball pressure from opposing defenses, being able to shoot the 3 ball to, kind of take some of the pressure off of himself. All of those areas are kind of the knocks on his game. So showing some development, particularly the outside shot, because he was known as the guy who could shoot the ball. He's never shot it great, but I think the expectation going into BYU that he was going to be able to shoot the ball. And he came out hot out of the gate, and then he really struggled, in the latter half of the year, had a knee injury. So, there could have been some other factors there, but him shooting the ball at a high level to complement the playmaking, I think would really go a long way to quell some concerns about what he's going to be as a player. And also, he's got that 6'8" frame. He's got a 6'10" wingspan. Defensively, can he be a guy who can, not be a negative there, who can hang with some NBA offensive players and potentially have some plus upside there? If that's the case, you have a guy who is an elite passer. He can shoot the ball, which should allow him to play on or off the ball. And if he can have some defensive versatility, those are the makings of a really productive rotation player. So him showing flashes in some of those areas, I think would be productive for the Nets. And that would give a lot of hope to Nets fans, regardless of the team outcome this season.
We're talking to Erik Slater of Locked On Nets, covering Egor Demin, and then the other day he says, "Well, actually, it's Egor Demin." What name are we running with here? Because we're still figuring that out. He told us it was Egor Demin the whole last year. He's added the accent mark, which is cool, on his name. A lot of Russian influence, certainly in the area. But what name are we going with here?
We asked him at the introductory press conference. He said Egor Demin. And then the Nets content team put out that video where he went Domin, or a little bit different there. So I don't know. I'm going to be out in Vegas for Summer League. I'm leaving on Thursday. So when I talk to him, I might have to, ask for a little clarification on that to make sure we get it right moving forward.
I'm not sure what I'm running with either, but ultimately, when a guy tells you this is how you say my name, that's how you say it. And I think he's kind of embraced the more native Russian name. So that's cool. And I'm interested to see what he does in Summer League. Certainly Thursday is the opening game against the defending champs. It's not really them, but the Thunder. Mm-hmm. What are you expecting from Demin or Demin? I still don't know what we're running with. In Vegas, what do you want to see from him and this rookie class and young guys from the Nets?
Yeah, I think it's, the things I outlined before as of expectations for this season with Egor. This is going to be a little bit of a step up from BYU, even at the Summer League, just in terms of the athleticism of the defenders, the ball pressure that he's going to face. So how does he handle that? Can he handle that ball pressure? Can he create any separation for himself and, create advantages for the Nets offensively outside of the pick and roll? And then the jump shot. How does he shoot the ball? Is he a guy who can pull up off the dribble comfortably and knock some shots down? Did the Nets potentially use him off the ball? How does he look playing alongside a guy like Nolan Traore or Ben Saraf? Can he catch and shoot? So all of those things, I think, how he looks handling the ball, how he handles pressure, how the Nets use him positionally, and then just how he shoots the basketball. Those are going to be all the things that I'm looking for, and I think it's going to be really exciting. The Nets have 5 first-round picks. One of them is going to be out, but 4 first-round picks playing for one team at Summer League from a single draft. It's never happened before, so it's going to be really exciting to watch.
What's the chance in a year from now we're talking about AJ Dubonsa on the Nets? Because I know the Jazz locally want him too, and we can't wait to watch him in a BYU uniform.
I think there's going to be no shortage of conversation about the Nets draft position. Obviously, this past season there wasn't, but this year they kind of got off some of the veteran guys. Like last year, we saw them trade Dennis Schroeder and Dorian Finney-Smith. Now they moved off Cam Johnson this summer, and they brought in Michael Porter Jr., but they brought in 5 first-round picks. So there's a lot more young guys. There's a little bit less, veteran mentorship and leadership and experience. So that in itself, I think, should lend itself to some more losing probably. If you have rookies handling the ball like Demin, Traore, and Saraf, rookie ball handlers, it's just always a situation where it's really tough to make that jump, and there's going to be some growing pains. So from that perspective, I would expect the Nets to probably finish higher in the lottery odds this next year than they did this year. This year they were 6th. I could see them easily being in the top 4, top 5 this year. So Nets haven't had much lottery luck in the past. I outlined that after they fell to 8th in this year's draft. But hey, as you said, we got AJ Dubonsa. We got 2 other guys in Darren Peterson and Cam Boozer, who are really highly regarded. So, for better or worse, whether you like it or not, I think the Jazz and the Nets might be in another race to see who gets to the top of the draft next year. And that outcome, it could have some really serious implications, even more so than this year, because last year we had Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper. This year we have 3 guys who I think are really, really, really going to be highly regarded throughout the pre-draft process.
The Jazz and Nets could be in a similar situation again next year. It'll be a compelling regular season for many ways. Well, Erik, we appreciate the time. Best of luck. Enjoy Vegas and watching Demin and the boys with the Nets. We appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.